This right here is an 18-year-old, rookie Connor McDavid. Because before all the accolades, the scoring awards, MVP trophies,
The Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid.
This is Connor McDavid's second award of the night.
McDavid at one point was just an unproven rookie, expected to be the next big star in the league. And with all these expectations comes pressure, high enough to derail the careers of countless prospects throughout league history. However, McDavid had a skill that had never been seen before at the NHL level. On this play, McDavid picks up the puck in his own zone, and you know what? There's not much to analyze here. Through McDavid's superhuman ability to generate speed, he walks the defender.
Cutting for the net, his backhand scores! Connor McDavid, overtime winner!
On this next play off a defensive zone win. You know what? Just roll the clip.
For McDavid against Virgin. McDavid gets a shot, he scores! Connor McDavid!
McDavid quickly came to the realization that his speed was a cheat code. Now, everyone knew about his skating ability, but walking OHL defenseman versus burning and embarrassing the top defenseman in the league at age 18 is a completely different story, as the last time we saw a player like this, who's able to skate laps around the other team on top of unbelievable finishing ability, was Bobby freaking Orr. Keep in mind, he wasn't just embarrassing bottom pairing defensemen. No, he was destroying some of the top defensemen in the game, as this right here is Mark Giordano, a defenseman known for his offense but more importantly his ability to shut down the other team's top stars. And on this play, he has the upper hand against McDavid, but it wasn't even close.
On a break, McDavid scores!
On this play, we have a prime Roman Josi, who in this era was a top defenseman in the game. He would win a Norris Trophy, and he was paired with Ryan Ellis, another great player and a top skating defenseman in his prime, and he would walk both of them like they're children.
McDavid to the front, he scores! What a move!
The point is, McDavid knew his skating was unstoppable, and it was, as he was single-handedly winning games with Benoit Pouliot and Pat Maroon as his line mates, and the strategy of simply outpowering, outskating the opposition every single night was working. That is, unless the other team doesn't play dirty. On Game 13 of his rookie season, we would see the first incident.
Here's McDavid with a shot up high. Northern gets the save, and then everybody crashes into the end boards. Manning. And McDavid. Connor McDavid getting up slowly, holding his shoulder as he heads to the bench.
McDavid picks up the puck in the defensive end. He then sees a favorable matchup and decides to turn on the Jets. Brandon Manning, not able to handle McDavid's speed, would grab onto his jersey and push off his hip right as McDavid was off balance from a shot attempt, where he would crash hard into the boards. And as a result, McDavid would break his collarbone, where he would be out for several months. Because here's the thing, when McDavid was able to gain clear separation from his speed, it was an automatic goal, or at the very least a high danger scoring chance. And after the NHL was well aware of his ability, players around the league would start to get dirty, as they knew there was no chance in hell they could stop him one-on-one once he started to build up speed, and as a result, we would start to see many incidents, as defenders knew they were way better off taking a penalty or hoping to get away with one, versus allowing McDavid to get non-stop clean breakaways. On this play, McDavid picks up the puck in the neutral zone, where at this point, every single Flames player is just a pylon. This was against a prime Chris Tanev, known for being one of the best shutdown defensemen in the league, on top of having elite skating, and again, Mark Giordano, who just won Defenseman of the Year. Yet, his speed was too much to handle. Tanev gets a stick in his feet, and McDavid then has a head-on collision with the goalie. Even worse, the refs weren't even able to process what was going on with this speed, where McDavid gets a penalty. On this next play against Calgary, who keep in mind around this time were neck-and-neck rivals, where many games broke out into brawls. So if any team was going to be dirty, it was this matchup. McDavid picks up speed and knows he'll beat Giordano to the puck, and all he has to do is simply poke the puck around him and take off for a high danger scoring chance. But Giordano's no dummy, he knows this too, where he clips him.
And right there, that lean, it's the hip more or less than the knee.
And all of these little moments would start to foreshadow that a catastrophic event was bound to happen. When McDavid was hitting top speed, leading to the other team taking his feet from under him, a more severe incident was just inevitable. And well, that's exactly what would happen in 2019. Again, a play we've seen probably 10 to 20 times in this video. McDavid picks up speed in the neutral zone, walks around Giordano like a pylon. Giordano out of desperation sweeps for the puck, taking out McDavid's legs.
Flying in, and he crashes into the Flames net. Tripping is the call.
And he goes in hard into the net and crashes through.
And as a result, McDavid would tear his PCL, a fatal knee injury that could severely impact a player's career, I recently made a video about how Daniel Carcillo tearing his own knee would end his career, and some comments were like, yeah right, he still played some games after, what do you mean? I don't think some people realize how catastrophic a knee injury is in the game of hockey. When you're skating, your knees, your tendons are a fundamental part of generating power, and there's a lot of pressure in that knee mechanism. And for some players, yeah, they came back, but they were never the same. Sluggish, unable to return to the skater they once were. On top of that, having a knee injury can also increase your chances of re-tearing that knee. And a lot of people who do tear a knee end up tearing their other knee. I'm well aware of this whole situation because I tore mine in hockey. Not to mention that McDavid's entire game was built upon speed. However, we're not talking about some average athlete, as somehow McDavid not only made a full 100% recovery, no, he did so without getting surgery, which is something I just can't even wrap my head around. Regardless though, McDavid still had a big issue. Yeah, his speed and skating ability was back after months of determination and gruesome physio, but that didn't stop the root of the issue here. McDavid's top-end speed, more so over-reliance on using his top-end speed, was starting to become a massive liability. As we went over, yeah, it was a game breaker, a cheat code, but that is if the other team wasn't playing dirty. Because here's a fascinating part about this story. Around the year 2020, McDavid would come to the realization that his constant speed bursts could be a liability to his health and therefore career. In his mind, all he cared about was generating offense. And that's fine, that's a winning mentality, but it's like how when players drive to the net, end up crashing into the goalie and getting a penalty, their mind was so focused on scoring that they forgot about the fact that they don't have time to stop. It's like how Shea Weber's shot was so powerful, even to the point with no screen he could beat a goalie clean. That's awesome, but then you have to think at some point, I seem to be injuring a lot of my teammates here. And I mean a lot, because as a result, we would see McDavid's game go through a dramatic evolution. Because back in 2021, McDavid had 967 speed bursts in the 18 to 20 mile per hour range, which means on average, McDavid 12 times per game was turning on the Jets. And to put this into perspective, Nathan MacKinnon, who is also a generational talent in terms of his top end speed, without his injury, was on pace for 750 speed bursts, which would have placed him top 5 in the NHL. Therefore, McDavid had over 200 more speed bursts than one of the fastest skaters of all time. Unfortunately, this data was not tracked before 2021, but without a question, McDavid blew the 1,000 mark out of the water. I wouldn't even doubt it if he was on pace for well above 1,100. But here's the thing, if we then compare that metric to last season, McDavid's speed bursts fell by over 220 in the season. And you might be thinking, maybe McDavid from his injuries just lost a step. It wouldn't be unrealistic, we've seen it many times, but that's not the case at all. In fact, McDavid this season hit the highest speed he's ever hit in his entire career, sitting at 24.14 miles per hour, or just shy of 39 kilometers per hour. So you might be thinking, why? Why does this even matter? And well, it tells a fascinating story. McDavid throughout his entire career has had some of the greatest off-the-rush goals in league history. He has a better highlight reel from 1 week than probably 90-95% of players have in their entire careers. But one thing changed. One thing is a lot different. After this catastrophic knee injury, as a result from bullying, McDavid became a lot more selective and or more strategic when choosing to turn on the Jets. Not only that, it would then force him to start developing his mid-range snapshot. On this play, McDavid picks up the puck in his own end, he gains the offensive line. At this point, McDavid caught the defenders flat-footed. The old McDavid would just turn on the Jets and cut towards the net, but no.
David blazes over the line and scores!
Oh my goodness.
McDavid is launched out of a freaking cannon out of his own zone. He slices through 2 defensemen, and at this point, the old McDavid would have taken advantage of a flat-footed Ryan Ellis, pulled it to his backhand and driven to the net. But no, he would instead use Ryan Ellis as a screen.
You want to make a play sometimes.
McDavid scores coast to coast, beating Lankinen!
And I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Because on this graphic, we have McDavid's goal-scoring heat map from the year before he tore his ACL. It's very compact, in tight with the net, and this is due to McDavid generating so much of his offense by blowing past the defender and driving to the net. But if we fast forward, you'll start to notice that his range would dramatically increase. As this right here is his 2023 season, and guess what? This also just happens to be the year where McDavid had one of the most dominant seasons in NHL history.
It's a shot on goal from Connor McDavid! Off the draw, McDavid fires and scores! He's got 2!
So to sum it up, McDavid was essentially bullied by the opposition's dirty plays, which would then force him to transform his game, where he would then transcend what we thought was even possible in the modern era. And boys and girls, that's why sometimes bullying's okay. Obviously a joke. It's a joke, YouTube. Bullying is not okay. But McDavid being forced into shooting from distance, being more selective, strategic, fearing that constant net drives would result in more injury, would somehow make the most dangerous player in the league even more dangerous. I'd really appreciate a like on this video. A big shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.